Karen, just to be clear, you didn't do it.
We know who did it, Steve. We know. And we know who spearheaded this cover-up. You all know.
Yes, we do.
If John was beaten up and attacked in that house, who did it?
We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know. And it's not for us to know. Somebody other than Karen is responsible for that, for the killing of John.
Yeah. Roberta in the truth zone, mic hitting raw. Spotlight shining, she exposing the flaw. Debunking the myth, breaking their facade. This is Glass City, respect the squad. On these NYC blocks where the skyline flex big. Roberta Glass slicing lies with a truth rig. Innocence frosters, your stories unravel. She's a map through the madness of gritty gravel. Glass don't bend and facts don't break. She's a storm that's called, you feel the quake. Exposing tales stitched with crooked seams. Justice in the lens, shattered fake dreams. Dreams about killers, painted heroes in disguise. She burning propaganda with fire in her eyes. No glamour for the guilty, she call it straight. She backs victims, the voice stay away. Stats and receipts, no spin, no clutter. Cold cases whisper, she cuts through the mutter. Truth's her tempo, don't confuse the beat. She's standing for the real while you taking a seat. True crime's a block, facts the artillery. Spinning those lies, yo, she checks that misery. Tabloid tales get smashed, no time to play. She's glass hard, break the false and save the day. True crime's a block, facts the artillery. Spinning those lies, yo, she checks that misery. Tabloid tales get smashed, no time.
Yes, Tater, the gang is all here. Hello, Myrna. Hello, Iowa travel nurse. Murder by Maestro, Texas Brat, Candy, Canes, Ruth Long, Jean, Bill, Texas Brat. Hello. I think I said hello to you twice, Texas Brat. You get 2 hellos today. All right, on the docket today to talk about is Turtleboy, meaning Aidan Turtleboy Kearney, getting kicked to the curb. So last time we were talked about the deal that Karen Reed and Alan Jackson inked with Hollywood for a Hollywoodized version of her story. Of course, one voice makes all the difference. Sometimes a single voice makes all the difference. Just a single voice, not a massively funded innocence fraud campaign that the media jumped on. Just one single voice can make all the difference up against big power. LOL. And we were looking at Aidan Kearney's comment, a public statement. It's been called a hostage video. Looked to me like it was written by his lawyer to get him ready and get out his narrative that he wants out about the witness harassment charges and upcoming trials that he has against him. That's what it looked like to me, to my eye. And that he wasn't heard. He always knew that Karen Reed she's supposed to be shopping her story around to the highest bidder. But she's talked so much. I don't know what would be in it for someone except someone small starting off that wanted some eyes on their platform. I don't know what big money would be spent. She's going to say it feels great to be acquitted and la-di-da. And she's going to push out this narrative. They've hopped on our side that she's really trying to get justice for John O'Keefe, when the only justice for John O'Keefe that was ever going to be gotten was if she got convicted, and she so poisoned the jury pool that it didn't happen. Didn't happen the first time, didn't happen the second time. And that was the idea of starting that campaign pre-trial, was to not only poison the jury pool, but really to get the charges dropped. She said in her private communications, meaning Karen Reed, that this isn't going to trial. I'm not going to trial, because if you think that the Commonwealth didn't know that this was a challenge after such a highly publicized, such a highly publicized innocence fraud campaign had spread, they didn't know it was a challenge to get a conviction, you're fooling yourself. They knew it was a challenge. Once this kind of disinformation goes out in the public sphere, it's very hard to convince. People are still convinced, even though it was proved with 2 witnesses, with a live demonstration. People are still convinced that the hoax of the 227 Google search, they think that happened. That hoax was real. They're convinced it's still real. When we all know that Jennifer McCabe did that search at Karen Reed's request, the way she does everything, by proxy, adding in other characters, making other people do stuff for her. Call this person, call that person. She never called 911. Does anybody ever get how strange that is? In Karen Reed's supposed play panic, put on panic, acting panicked, play acting panic, that she didn't ever call 911 if she's so worried. Why is she calling all these people? She's calling her parents in the middle of the night. They didn't answer. She's calling John O'Keefe's phone over and over to make it look like she was concerned that he didn't come home. That was the story. And I still hear people from this side saying, oh, she and Jennifer McCabe and Kerry Roberts went to look for John. They didn't. Karen Reed led them to John O'Keefe's deceased body. So she had an audience where it could be discovered, and she could act hysterical, like she cared. I mean, did we ever see any emotion from Karen Reed? Have we seen any emotion from Karen Reed about the death of her boyfriend of 2 years? No. The only emotion we've ever seen for Karen Reed is for herself when she got acquitted. She knew she hit him. She knew where he was. All this is play acting. So I just hear from this side of the fence over and over again things like, let's say, did you really think Karen Reed wasn't going to whitewash you out of her story, Aidan Kearney? Did all the people who spent countless hours in their pajamas standing on corners and in front of the courthouse, heeding the order of Nathan Reed and Kelly Reed to order smaller pizzas, buy less groceries, forgo Christmas presents to give their pennies to Karen, think that she would share the stage with the dirty and the unwashed? Well, that's true. But as far as Aidan Kearney goes, I'll tell you why I'm skeptical and I'm not buying it, just from what I know of innocence fraud campaigns, and that they never give up. And I'm going to give you a little idea of where I think they're going. I mean, just the same kind of stuff over and over again. The Karen Reed crime family boss has spoken. Nobody talks to Turtleboy. I don't think that's true. But let's look at, we were looking at some of it last time, but let's take a look at it again to give you, this is his story. Also have some really fascinating information about a character we've never heard from before, who hooked up Karen Reed and John O'Keefe and has been a secret supporter of Karen Reed's from the shadows. I'm going to talk about that today. A lot to talk about, but before I get into Aidan Kearney's statement, let me just catch up with Anita Hodge, thanks so much for the super sticker. Myrna, Sultana, I have the same questions, Roberta. Why Karen never called 911? I think she was very aware of true crime, aware that they profile these 911 calls. And it would have been a call. So what they're looking for in 911 calls, if you are calling for help for the victim, or are you calling to report the victim? And obviously, Karen Reed was reporting that the victim was dead. She already was telling people maybe he got hit by a plow. She strangely knew that he had been hit by a large vehicle. Strangely, knew he was in trouble before anyone else. So that's why I think she did it. Had Jen McCabe do it. It's because she knew it would have been a call to report his death, his murder, let's be honest. And she knew that it wasn't going to look good for her. She couldn't script it well enough. So she passed it off to Jen McCabe, who honestly was asking for help. That's why I think she did it that way. But here's Aidan Kearney. Just want to thank Lisa Larson for your donation via Buy Me a Coffee. I want to thank Carol Holderman, Marcy Denton, and Diane Brooks for supporting the show via Venmo. If you want to support the show, links are always in the description of this episode. You can buy me a coffee, Venmo, or Patreon, where you get access to a whole lot of content you won't get anywhere else. Here is Aidan Kearney reading his scripted statement. I think it's either a combination of his lawyer and Karen Reed or Alan Jackson, or strictly his lawyer, but my money is on his lawyer wrote this. Take a listen. Meaning his lawyer for these witness harassment cases.
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to address.
I mean, just look at no 34 Fairview in the background, no very clean shaven, new haircut, scrubbed up face. This is the new polished Aidan Kearney, PR Aidan Kearney, PR ready Aidan Kearney.
Some comments that I made on my show the other night that have become fodder for social media. Karen Reed's team is not distancing themselves from me, and I'm sure I'll be able to sit down with them and have a recorded discussion with them eventually. The only reason I even brought that up on my show was because people kept asking when I was going to have them on, in light of Bob Alessi and David Unetti's appearances on other channels. I've always been straightforward about what's going on, so I answered the question truthfully. This has been perceived as me being bitter, but the truth is I was just answering a question that a lot of people were asking. Let me be very clear, though. Karen Reed and her team don't owe me anything. I didn't do this for accolades and thank yous or money.
They don't owe me anything, even though I already got a lot of money out of this. So basically he says I got a lot of money out of this, and then he goes into how horrible it was. That I'm just going to skip forward to the end here because this is really the part we didn't get to. He says it was so horrible for Karen and her family, and it was so horrible for me being in jail for the little time that I spent in jail. And I looked at my children's photos every night and just wanted to be back with my kids because I'm such a honest family man. I think it's going to be hard to convict him. I'm not convinced he's going anywhere. Meaning everyone, I see a lot of people on this side of the fence going, oh, he's going to prison. I don't know. This, talk about poison jury pool. He's a hero in this local area. And they're going to hammer home innocent woman and finding real killers. And I'm going to show you where they're going to move next after this. He will be grifting off of this for a long time. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think that he is in talks with Karen Reed behind the scenes. He would have to be not a human being because he put this out before any of the media to not be angry that he didn't get the first interview. But the way that they've always communicated is behind the scenes. Remember back to David Yanetti's communication. Don't be mad if I don't shake your hand at the courthouse. The MO was always pat his butt. He didn't think anybody was going to notice him patting Turtleboy's butt. I noticed. And I put it on blast. I clipped it and put it on blast. Sure. But they were publicly always trying to distance themselves from the witness harassment. Meanwhile, which I believe Karen Reed and her lawyers are up to their eyeballs in the witness harassment. Why do I believe that? I believe that because when Aidan Kearney's phone records came out, he was talking to them through the whole witness harassment stuff, the rolling rallies, the protests, and it didn't stop. It didn't stop. It escalated. And if Karen Reed didn't find this witness harassment campaign useful, she said she was talking to Aidan Kearney every day, she would have publicly come out and said, hey, supporters, I really appreciate all your support, but don't harass the witnesses in this case. Notice she never said that. Her lawyers never said that. This was a strategy. Yet that is the only logical conclusion done by Karen Reed, her lawyers, and Aidan Kearney. And need I ask you to need you forget the time when Karen Reed came bursting into the courtroom where Aidan Kearney, they were trying to get Aidan Kearney's communications. I think this all should have come into the trial. The witness harassment campaign, Aidan Kearney, put him on the stand, have him take the fifth in front of everybody. What? Why not? I think it would have proved your point. But that was when we were, I think all that would have been useful. Put Karen Reed's father up on the stand. Have him lie on the stand for her. I think he would have lied on the stand for his daughter. He seemed to. That's my take, but
Karen has time to. When what she's been through isn't normal. The smiles you see on TV and the confidence she exudes in public are her way of putting on a strong front. But she is human, and she knew that at the end of this, if she was convicted, that she would be the only one who has to go to the hellhole known as state prison.
Quite a nice ending compared to what John O'Keefe's ending. Being left alone to die, like she says, like roadkill, like Karen Reed said, like roadkill. Or being sentenced to a life sentence of grief, like Karen Reed's family and loved ones have. John O'Keefe's friends and loved ones have. I mean, that is a life sentence of grief. Doesn't compare to John O'Keefe's family. The idea of prison. And I think she would have done very well in prison. She would have been doing yoga, all the things, etc. Yoga, AA meetings. She would have been the queen bee there.
Although we're all happy for Karen Reed, keep in mind that the emotion she's feeling right now might be even worse than what she was feeling before she was acquitted. What she has lived through the past few years has been news and entertainment for us, but for her, it's been traumatic, and she may not even realize it until now.
Oh, this is the thing that they're starting to put out on the wrongful conviction side. So It's a nice, if she should reoffend, drive drunk, some way, it's all going to be due to the trauma from being, quote unquote, LOL, wrongfully accused. This is something that the wrongful conviction movement and innocence fraud and their innocence fraud campaigns like to put out. So when the person that they've gotten out, saw this with one gentleman, I did an episode on him who tried to push a cop on a traffic stop. They got him out of prison on a lot of nonsense. I believe he did his original murder.
I don't know if she.
And he tried to push a cop into the traffic, and the cop had to fire a gun and end his life. And they said, well, so the logical conclusion would be that to think, well, what happened when they got him out of the prison the first time? Maybe he wasn't wrongfully convicted or wrongfully accused, but instead the media was, oh, he had PTSD from being in prison wrongfully. It's just a joke. So Karen Reed really looked like she was really suffering, staying at the Omni Hotel, eating at the finest restaurants, drinking at the finest, at the most expensive bars, being loved and adored by her fans, treated like Princess Diana everywhere she went.
She's having nightmares and random feelings of severe depression like I was after getting out of jail. But it would be very normal if she was. Life will never be the same for her after this. As for interviewing her, I've had many discussions with her over the last 2.5 years about being the first to interview her, but she never promised me that. It was always something I hoped for, but it wasn't something I thought I was entitled to. The fact of the matter is that she has lost everything as a result of this, including her job, her car, and her house.
Her job, her car, and her house. The O'Keefes have lost their beloved son, an uncle, the only parent those kids had. But Karen Reed, hey guys, Karen Reed lost her car and her house. She had to sell her house. And now with her multi-million-dollar deal, I'm sure it's in the millions, she's going to have to buy a nicer house. This is very traumatic, guys. Extreme trauma. Always the victim. Always the victim. See, the point of an innocence fraud campaign is to totally ghost the victim and make the killer the victim now. And this is what we're doing with Karen Reed. The killer is now the victim.
She has to rebuild her life again, which means she has to make money. As much as I would be honored to interview her first, the fact of the matter is that there is likely a bidding war going on right now for that honor.
Right, because Karen Reed can't get a job out there. She can't, unfortunately, she can't, I don't know. She can't serve coffee. No one in the world will hire her with all her resources. She can't get a job. Has to sell her, keep profiting off of her murder of John O'Keefe over and over and over again.
I'm just a guy with an online news website, and I can't compete with what others would offer her. I don't have hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars. I've discussed this with her, and I think she should make as much money as she can off of this. She assured me that after the first interview, she'd be happy to sit down with me. So no, Karen Reed and her team are not distancing themselves from me because they're worried about new charges or because I use foul language that they don't want to be associated.
That I agree with. Sorry, I had to plug in my computer. I agree with them. I think that they will keep grifting off of this for a long time. So let me see.
In fact, I was the second person Alan Jackson called after his wife on the day that Karen Reed was acquitted.
mean, that will show you how integral part of the team he was, and still, I believe he still is.
I was invited out to dinner with all of them that night. It is purely a business decision for them now, which I not only completely respect, but I think they would be crazy and stupid to blow that type of financial opportunity just to throw me a bone. Everything I did with this story was for justice for John O'Keefe. I might get a little carried away sometimes, and I definitely use foul.
He cares nothing about justice for John O'Keefe and everything about lining his pockets. And the thrill of getting a killer off. Okay. And the power. I mean, this has given him tremendous power, and he's only going to get bigger. I know this is only going to get bigger and stronger and more mythic as this goes on. So here's I wanted to just show you. Hold on one second. Well, here's Alan Jackson in his "I'm gonna F you up" Alan Jackson t-shirt in the war room. I mean, they had a war room. And Karen Reed knew every little bit of that case. So this is where they're going from now on. Here's Nick Rocco. So he's saying the bulkhead steps. Maybe he banged his head on the basement garage. Oh no, they're back to the basement from the garage steps. Even though there's no evidence he ever. And here is, so what they're going to do is, Karen Reed said she has the rug in storage. Am I showing this? Hold on one second. I'm not sharing my screen. Hold on one second, guys. Hate when I do that. Hold on. Here we go. Okay, so we'll go back to the steps. Bulkhead steps. And here they are inspecting. So you're not supposed to notice if you're a Karen Reed supporter that they've moved now. So first he was killed in the basement, even though there's no evidence that he ever moved. After Karen Reed reversed her car into him, going 24 miles an hour with her foot 74.5% down on the gas pedal, and her car had an incident. He never moved again from the area on the lawn from where he was found. It doesn't. So what they made it seem like is maybe the area in which he found could include the garage, but there's no access to the house from the garage. A little bit of a problem. And I'll show you why. So here's Alan Jackson. Karen Reed says that she has the rug. This is how they're going to grift off of this. They're going to raise money for DNA testing of the rug. This is where they look like they're going. The floor of 34 Fairview. That I don't know what kind of flooring it was.
Okay.
There's that.
Okay. Okay.
Alan Jackson walking around in his socks. And I'll show you the next one. Give me 1 minute. Unreal. All this stuff is unreal. He's aged like 30 years, you think, Maestro? Alan Jackson. Okay. So here's Alan Jackson walking around 34 Fairview, the garage. Go back.
And once you get done with that, now inside that room is some flooring, correct?
Yep.
Or is it? Let me look. No, there's no flooring. All right, so basically every single part of this part of the basement of this part of the house, the flooring's been taken up. I mean, all of this, it's just hodgepodge, right? It just looks like it was thrown down. So the actual floor was ripped up, and this is just a hodgepodge of plywood. All the way through here.
Yep.
Yeah, the entire floor was ripped out. And then this goes into a storage area it looked like this area did not have.
Maybe the new owners are the real killers. Maybe that's why they ripped up the flooring.
Have flooring in it to begin with, but all this is relatively, it looks to be relatively recent plywood.
From the dark, but
Are you getting enough light to actually get this?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
This is the kind of nonsense that they spent their time on. So I think that they will keep grifting on this idea. We got to test this. We got to test that. Raise money for DNA testing of the basement, the flooring. Here's a So, I mean, just to refresh, here's a little timeline that Innocence Fraud Watch did of the relationship between Aidan Kearney and Karen Reed's legal team. So, David Unetti received a grand jury subpoena demanding production of all materials produced discovery to date by the Commonwealth versus Karen Reed, as well as all relevant investigative material. So that was November 2022. So that means that that's probably when they had been to that was their first move, to go to the Attorney General's office and get a federal investigation into everybody who charged Karen Reed. Based upon there's a probable cause to believe that Karen Reed committed a violation of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 274, Section 7, by entering into an agreement with Aidan Kearney by providing information, photography, material relative to her criminal defense, and editorial oversight of blog posts and videos intended to harass, intimidate, and cause emotional harm. That's Brian Tully, the detective, said, who looked into the relationship between Karen Reed and Aidan Kearney. So on April 12, 2023, there was a motion filed by Reed's defense attorneys directed to Brian Albert, Verizon, and AT&T, alleged police misconduct and a conspiracy among civilian witnesses to frame Karen Reed for the death of John O'Keefe. The motion calls Brian Albert a suspect and Jennifer McCabe a conspirator who took calculated steps to purge her phone of this inculpatory evidence. A local blogger, when we found out that she deleted nothing from her phone, a local blogger, Aidan Kearney, has adopted defense's claims. And in April 2023, a woman named Natalie Bernsteiner-Wicki noticed a woman named Jennifer Altman on social media who was defending Karen Reed in comments of news reports regarding Karen Reed's in her criminal case. And Natalie contacted Jennifer Altman and thanked her for supporting Karen. And it was Jennifer Altman who put Karen Reed in touch with Aidan Kearney. And Natalie sent the following message to Jennifer: the feds are involved, and described how people were going down. And Natalie spoke to Karen about Kearney, and Karen told Natalie she would like Kearney to report on the case. So Jennifer responded she had a friend called Aidan Kearney. So Jennifer Altman put Natalie in touch with Aidan, and Karen told Natalie she would like Kearney to report on the case. So Aidan Kearney first published a blog. So he didn't get involved until April 2023, April 18th. And Aidan Kearney aired a YouTube video, said woman framed for murdering boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe in Canton. So he didn't get involved till, so he spoke to Natalie on the 14th, and he published his first blog on the 18th. Aidan Kearney aired a live YouTube video called Innocent Woman Framed for Murdering Boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe in Canton. And then you can see in this blog, it's linked in the description, how they're leaking out information to him about the federal investigation. So a check of the phone records from Kearney's phone associated with David Yannetti and Alan Jackson, a phone number ending in 5359 was checked through LexisNexis, a commercially available database, and it was associated with David Yannetti. The 535 phone number communicates with Kearney's two phones 29 times from April 20th to May 2nd. A phone number ending in 0555 was checked through LexisNexis and was associated with Alan Jackson. The 0555 phone number communicates with Kearney's two phones 29 times, same amount of times, including 3 times from April 20th to May 1st. Intermediary Natalie Bernschneider-Wawicki sent Aidan Turtleboy Kearney a message reading in part, "Without me." This is Karen Reed through Natalie communicating with Aidan. Okay, so Karen Reed said this: "Without me saying too much, it is unwise to assume this crime, murder, wasn't planned." Okay, it is unwise to assume this, meaning murder, wasn't planned. The defense has more bombshells. Teaching John a lesson was the plan at minimum. I think she's speaking about herself there. So it was on April 20th when Aidan Kearney stated in his blog, according to reliable sources, a federal grand jury had subpoenaed multiple witnesses who were in the home. And then Alan Jackson announces it at a hearing.
It's been reported that the federal authorities have now gotten involved in the circumstances surrounding this case and have impaneled a federal grand jury to investigate some of these circumstances.
So you can see that right before that, they're leaking out information to Aidan. So it gives you an idea. I check out the link in the description.
Some real talk here. So when the stuff...
Check out the link in the description. David Yannetti is sending Aidan Kearney messages like, "That was priceless, dude. Great effing show. Really enjoyed the turtle reporting." I did a whole video. It's in my video section about that. So there's a long relationship between Aidan Kearney and the Karen Reed defense team. So speaking of back to the basement, Paula Prado, juror number 11 with 1 million aliases, has said that she was very concerned about the doorway to the garage. Why did they cut not the doorway, the front of the garage? Why was it covered up? So she has said, assuming that a lot of witnesses that was in the house that night didn't see him, all the Brian, his friends, the people who were celebrating his birthday, assuming that none of them saw him, so maybe he went inside the house through the garage. Witness Sarah Levinson made it crystal clear during her testimony that the access to the house could not be gained via the garage. So why did Paula Prado choose to spin this ridiculous tale? So you can hear her talking to Vinnie Politan.
In the first trial, they talked about the basement. Do you have any idea where in the house he may have gone, and why do you think that?
Assuming that a lot of the witnesses that was in the house that night didn't see him, all the Brian, his friends, the people who are celebrating his birthday, assuming that none of them saw him, so maybe he went inside the house through the garage.
Ivermectin. It's the drug
Before you walk in the front door, what's the weather like outside?
It was cold, but it wasn't raining or snowing or anything.
No snow on the ground?
No.
When you walked in the door, did you go in the side door or the front door?
The side door.
Take us through walking into the house. What do you see?
So we walked through the side door, and then it's their like family room, they call it, with like the TV and everything. And then at the back of the family room is like a sliding glass door out into their porch. And then if you turn left, it's like the kitchen / dining room. And then there's a back door. There's like a small bathroom over like near the back door. And then if you walk straight through, it's the front door, the stairs, the door to the basement. And then they called it like the library is like their formal living room.
If you walked in the front door, would the stairs leading to the next floor upstairs be right in front of you?
Yes.
If you were going to go downstairs, would you walk around that staircase to the back side of it?
I don't believe the back, but the side.
Okay. You mentioned you walked in the side door near the garage. When you walk in the side door, you're in a living room, did you say?
Yeah, their family room, they call it. Yeah.
Can you walk into the garage from the family room, or do you need to go back outside to get into the garage?
No, you would have to go back outside.
So there's no door in that family room that leads directly to the garage?
No.
Germans have figured out a way to increase water.
Okay, you heard it there first, or you heard it with Sarah Levinson's testimony. Can't get into the house. Where was Paula Prado when that testimony was being said? Was she dreaming of ways to free Karen Reed? I mean, this is... But they're going to keep grifting off this idea. Now they've moved back to the basement. So they're just going to ignore the phone data. They never moved. So I just assumed because nobody saw him come in that he came in. You know, that's the logical... Isn't that the logical assumption when you follow the evidence in the case? That he came in through a door that you can't come in through. She's not dumb. She's a very smart woman. She's just a con woman. Straight up con woman. All right. That is that. One more thing I wanted to show you. How is everybody? She was, I don't know, sickening to hear how Karen Reed will make blood money. Yeah, hand over fist. She's going to keep bringing it in. Yeah, juror number 11 finds me infuriating. Apparently she's commenting about me on X. But she could have chosen to stay quiet. I think she's going to become a big asset to Karen Reed. I think they're going to continue. She's going to continue to talk about this case and find ways to make money from it. So, fascinating blog from Innocence Fraud Watch. So you remember that Karen Reed said that she met John O'Keefe at John O'Keefe's sister, Kristen's, at a birthday party, right? And she was at her Kristen's 30th birthday party. And who invited her? And so who took her? And it was Victoria Crisp took Karen Reed. Have you ever heard of this name, Victoria Crisp? So in July 2023, Karen Reed stated via Nightline's Innocence Fraud TV show with ABC's Matt Gutman, I met John in 2004 in February at his sister's 30th birthday party. Karen Reed said she thought John O'Keefe was handsome and sweet, which she said was about the criteria at the time. Then during a 2025 TV show entitled A Body in the Snow, The Trial of Karen Reed, which was pre-recorded in 2024, Karen Reed states, I met John in February of 2004, through a friend of his from high school. And we maybe dated a couple of weeks after that. And then I went to work that spring in Ireland just temporarily. And because of that, I stopped seeing him and I just lost touch. 2004, where it began, was the birthday party was held at the Elephant and Castle in Boston. And John O'Keefe's sister, Kristen, is turning 30. And that's where Karen Reed first met John O'Keefe. And John O'Keefe at that time was living in a condo on Minot Street in Dorchester. So Victoria Crisp, Vicky E. Crisp, she's now a Karen Reed supporter, went to high school in Braintree with John O'Keefe and was the person who had invited Karen Reed along to Kristen's 30th birthday party as her plus one. Did Karen Reed maybe date John O'Keefe for a couple of weeks after that, or was she lying again? Also, in 2004, this is what Innocence Fraud Watch is asking, Victoria Crisp began working. Did I call her Victoria? Did I call her something else? Victoria, aka Vicky Crisp, was working at Watertown Middle School. And at 2010, Wicked Local story on Victoria Crisp reads, the school department said Crisp was fired because she did not have the proper certification to be a special education teacher. And contrary to Karen Reed and A Body in the Snow, the Trial of Karen Reed TV show, John O'Keefe did not send the following message to Karen in March 2020. Hey, blast from the past, how's it going? Do you remember when she said that? And this whole narrative of Karen Reed being so jealous and being such a jealous girlfriend. Do you guys remember her, that she was said to Brian Higgins that she was in a previous relationship when she got a message, not the message that she said she got from John O'Keefe, something quite different? Or something different. I don't know how quite it is. But you remember that? There's the real message she got. And then why did she make it, hey, blast from the past, how's it going? And we know, according to John Jackson, he sent out, I think, something like 9 different text messages to old girlfriends that all read the same thing. So when she was communicating with Brian Higgins and trying to land him, Karen Reed indicated to Brian she was in a relationship with another man when John first messaged her back in March 2020. Karen Reed said to Brian Higgins, why are we alike according to you? And Higgins says, because we go because we go with our gut and how we feel. Isn't that kind of what you told me? Reed, yes, that's true. Higgins, have a good night. You're clearly irritated. Sorry to bother young you. Reed says, either texting is bad or you're sensitive. I'm not irritated at all, I swear. I had been going out with someone for a few years when I reconnected with John, and John and I got on very well at the same time, so I broke it off with the other guy. He probably started to see other people, if I'm completely honest with myself. I don't feel bad about any of that. I think it was meant to work out that way. So what's your point, says Higgins. Are you legitimately interested, unhappy in your relationship, mad because you saw him all over another girl, or a hybrid of all of it? My only point, says Reed, is there's a difference between being married to someone and dating them, and we have no intention of ever getting married. The point of dating people is to not get tied down if you're not confident you should be, in my mind anyway. The first two, but I don't care much about the other girl. So this is so jealous of any. She doesn't care about the other girl at all. This is Karen Reed, the jealous one. And you can listen to Karen Reed talk about it in Remember That.
By 2020, John is a single dad, a cop, raising 2 kids in the middle of a global pandemic. And that's when he reconnects with someone from his past, Karen Reed, who he briefly dated many years earlier. How did you meet John O'Keefe?
I met John in 2004, February, at his sister's 30th birthday party.
And so what drew you to him? I mean, what did you like about him?
I thought he was handsome and he was sweet. And I mean, I was 24, so that was about the criteria at the time. It just came and went.
I mean, do you see the silent, the quiet dig at John O'Keefe there? I was young and stupid, so that was the criteria. That he would just be cute and sweet. Because he didn't have any other really stellar qualities.
And didn't speak to him again. Not intentionally, it just wasn't serious.
But now, more than 15 years later, Karen is living in the Boston area with a career as a financial analyst and an adjunct professor teaching finance. And she sees a message from John on Facebook.
When I saw his picture, it was with several young children, and then it triggered my memory that his sister and his sister's husband had passed away. And he told me, yeah, I have the kids now. I thought that was amazing. And he said they're 9 and 12. 3 days later, he came over and I cooked, and it was like very natural. I met John in February of 2004 through a friend of his from high school, and we maybe dated another couple weeks after that. And then I went to work that spring in Ireland just temporarily, but because of that, I stopped seeing him.
Okay, so there's the story from Karen. Victoria Crisp has been ghosted out of the story. Why? Why have we never heard about Victoria Crisp? It's always been Karen Reed's always gotten ahead of the narrative and painted it the way she wanted to paint it. But the real story of what John O'Keefe wrote to all the girlfriends, all his old girlfriends, including Karen, may be coming out soon. All right, so that's what I have for today. Don't expect, I think that this side is so quick to say something terrible is happening for the other side. And I think it's just wishful thinking, fantastical thinking. And this is the same side, I think, the same kind of fantastical thinking where people were saying, oh, Karen Reed's going to get convicted. She's going to prison. Now, I know we all hope that. But I was out there saying, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure. From what I know of innocence fraud campaigns, they're very powerful. And clearly the jury was touched by her innocence fraud campaign and she was acquitted all but the very minor charge of driving under the influence. So I will be back shortly with another episode. Have a great night, everyone. Please support the show. Links are in the description of this episode. Hit the thumbs up, share this episode, subscribe to the channel, and I'll be back tomorrow at 6. Have a great night, everyone.
I hit my boyfriend with my car. It wasn't an accident, but with lying lawyers I'll go far. Lying lawyers and witness harassment. I'll avoid prison. It was snowing. I pushed the pedal down, hit him hard. Now the legal system I clown. Innocence fraud campaign to save my skin. Making money, truth is my second victim. Carry, carry, gin, gin. Like John, you were my mark. My innocence fraud campaign is my biggest hit. Yeah. I hit my boyfriend with my car. It wasn't an accident, but with lying lawyers I'll go far. Lying lawyers and witness harassment. I'll avoid prison. It was snowing. I pushed the pedal down, hit him hard. Now the legal system I clown.